Everyone just hopping on. Let me see. I don't know why these TikTok backgrounds are giving me some issues right now. Let's see. Okay, let's give that a try. Oh man. Well, how's everyone doing today? So today, weekly tech sales live. So let me see. This is kind of annoying. Lately, TikTok's been giving me issues with like green screen effects on lives, so it might be one of those things too. But normally I just pull up RepView for some of the top paying tech sales companies. But let's see. So today's like the general Q&A. Tomorrow we're doing another live focus just on pre-sales and sales engineering. So for people that are new, tech sales is, hey Dan, thanks for hopping on. Thanks for the gifts. Cameron, it says, 19-year-old business major, you want to get into tech sales. Any tips? So I'm guessing you're in college, so I would definitely try to get sales internships at software companies. Spend a good amount of time with like your manager, making it clear that that's the path that you want to move into. And you also want to spend time with the sales manager that you would be reporting into once you get promoted. So kind of two steps there. The reason why that's important is not every SDR necessarily wants to go into a closing sales role. When I was an SDR, there were a good amount of folks that transferred out of sales, for example, because they realized that wasn't really what they wanted to do. So they either went into like marketing, or they went into product, or more into like engineering type roles. Thoughts on Zendesk enterprise sales? I don't know a ton about Zendesk specifically, but they are kind of one of the leaders within their space. Don't have too much information on their sales team, but I can look them up on RepView and see. I think they're rated fairly high on RepView. And yeah, speaking of RepView, RepView is the sponsor of this week's live. So they're like Glassdoor, but for like tech sales compensation data. So here are like some of like the top paying enterprise roles. This is for enterprise sales. This would be 5-10 years into your tech sales career. You've got base salary numbers. Typically, a base salary figure for enterprise sales is like 130 to 150K. And then your OTE is how much you would earn if you hit 100% of your goal. So you're very typically on a 50-50 split. So meaning if you have a 280K OTE, your base is half of that. So that's what you can see here. This section right here is top earners. So you can earn well above your OTE. So once you pass 100% of your goal, you enter what's called accelerators. And once you hit accelerators, you're earning commission at a higher rate. So it could be anywhere from like 2x to 4x accelerators. So if you had 4x accelerators, for example, if you double your goal, you're going to earn another 4x of your on-target commission there. So RepView is a solid resource, especially if you're trying to evaluate tech sales roles, because companies can have different cultures on the sales side and non-sales side. So I've seen companies where they're very good for engineers, very bad on the sales side, for example, or vice versa. So that's where like RepView, they've really narrowed in on this niche for tech sales compensation data, review data. So yeah, so many paths: sales enablement, customer success managers can pay just as well. Yeah, there's multiple roles within tech sales. There's the traditional account management, account executive roles. You've got solutions architects, customer success managers, technical account managers. You got partner development, business development, sales operations specialists. Thoughts on Appian or Gainsight? I don't have too much insight there, but if you send me a DM, I can take a look. Transferred from SDR to sales engineer. Nice. Yeah, I've been a sales engineer twice at two different startups, at a cybersecurity startup and a fintech. And then I've switched between sales engineering and sales, kind of depending on the company. Are enterprise AEs mostly remote or work at office? Usually enterprise AEs are pretty much working from home. They'll occasionally go in the office for like team meetings, and they're traveling out to customers. You're in tech sales, been watching this guy for several months. He's 100% spot on money. Yeah, it's one of those careers where it's kind of like under the radar, where people don't realize how much it pays or like the other benefits within this career. Um, so that's why I'm trying to bring some transparency. Do you recommend getting any SDR job and then going to tech sales once you have experience? Yeah, if you're in between whatever job you're in right now and an SDR position that's not at a tech company, it is going to get you closer to your end goal if that's what you want to get into. Is this AE salaries? Yeah, this is enterprise AE salaries. So there's several levels. So you're going to first start off as a sales development representative. Then, depending on the company, you might have an inside sales representative position. So that one's a closing role. From there, you'll move into like SMB AE. So for account executives, they have different tiers of reps depending on the size of the customer that you're handling and the size of the deals. So typical levels are small and medium business, mid-market, enterprise, and at the really big companies like Amazon and Google and Apple, for example, they'll have strategic and global accounts. So at that level, as you're moving up levels, the deals are getting bigger, your quotas are getting bigger, and usually you're managing less accounts. At the global strategic level, you might be managing just one or two accounts. That's actually the level that I'm at right now. I just have two accounts that I manage. What percentage of reps do you need to see to hit their number to consider the company? I think like a healthy number is like 60 to 70%. I would say anything less than that kind of raises some red flags for me. Is Dell's inside sales rep a good path towards tech sales? Yeah, Dell has a pretty good sales training program. Um, and I mean, they're still relevant within the marketplace. You know, once you go from inside sales, you go into a closing role, you can go into a sales engineer position. Tom, we need a gatekeeper Kush roles. Yeah, I mean, so for me at my level, I'm not too worried about like new SDRs coming in because it's going to take them, 5, 7, 10 years to get to my level here. So, and there's just so many startups now, they're all looking to hire entry level reps. Do you know if anyone's switching from medical sales right now to AE? Yeah, I've actually had quite a few people reach out to me directly who are in medical device sales looking to make the switch to tech. You get your hired ad like 5 times a day. I get it pretty often too. And it's always funny when I see my own ad. But they're like pushing their ads like crazy. But I did see that they have a couple other ads that they're starting to run now, which I'm glad to see. What do you think about Salesforce? You're a BDR at Salesforce. Salesforce is super solid. You know, their product is at the top of the market. Sales organizations are very well run, very great sales training programs. So definitely a good place to be, especially early on in your career and even later in your career too. How many hours a week do you work? It ranges. Some weeks can be 20 hours, some weeks can be 50, but I probably average around, I don't know, 30 or 40. And it's not like constant working, for example. It kind of depends on like what you consider how many hours do you work. So I'm usually available from like 8 to like 5:30 or 6, but I'm not necessarily working nonstop during that whole time. What's a success manager? So at bigger companies, they'll have customer success manager roles. So these roles, they fall on the post-sales side of the sales process. So there's pre-sales. So that's where you have account executives and sales engineers. They're selling to new customers. They're doing the pitching. They're basically involved all the way up until the contract gets signed. And then you have post-sales. That would be the people that actually deliver the product, deliver the solution. And then customer success managers, those are the ones that are basically managing the longer-term relationship for the customer. Did you get any calls from your clients when AWS was iffy yesterday? Yeah, so our technical account managers for both accounts, they were on top of it with my customers. They basically had like an open bridge, giving them updates in terms of what was happening. So I don't personally get the calls. I direct them to the post-sales team. Can you negotiate and take on less of a base and higher commission? At startups, you definitely can. At bigger companies, usually not. Usually they have like, I got on TikTok, I guess still relatively early, which was January of 2020. But yeah, sure. If I got in even sooner, I think for sure I'd have a bigger following. Is that Databricks AE OTE? Yeah, it's OTE. So 280 OTE. This 875K, that's like high earner or top earner, whatever. I'm pretty sure most of that is from stock because they had a lot of stock appreciation. Sales internships are great. Yes, they are. Just heard of Ignite. Have I heard of Ignite? I have not. Just got hired at 150K OTE, but was told comp plan changes next month. Is that a red flag? Not really. Comp plans usually change. They're usually changing them yearly. They're adding additional spiffs or bonuses. So not necessarily a red flag. And if it's next month, that kind of aligns with usually the calendar year stuff. Just got from an offer from Renovere, have one pending from Acoustic. Congrats, man. Can't get any meetings, any tips. Yeah, so don't try to like reinvent the wheel. See what reps are doing well in terms of like their numbers and meetings that they're setting, and try to borrow like their email templates, their messaging. Um, Try to see like what they're doing differently. It could be your messaging is off. It could be maybe your cadences are off, and you could also perhaps even be targeting the wrong individuals within the company. So it could be a couple things you want to take a look at. Um, how do you find tech sales, specifically other kinds? So you're going to see them on LinkedIn. One of my pinned posts is how to find entry-level tech sales roles. Um, so check that out. They also there's a couple programs you can look at, like Pre-Hired is one. If you're having trouble, I would say after maybe like 4 to 8 weeks of like applying yourself, if you're not getting any traction, you've updated your LinkedIn, your resume, and you just can't get interviews. That's when you could look at like doing some of these like boot camps that they have. So Pre-Hired is one of them. It's like 8 to 12 weeks. They don't charge anything up front. They have a job placement guarantee, and that's when you start like paying back. And then the other one that I really like too is Pre-Sales Academy. That one's in my bio too. They're more focused on like the pre-sales, sales engineering side, which is interesting. So if you want to be in sales, but you don't want as much like quota pressure, for example, pre-sales or sales engineering is a fun role where you're more of like the technical product expert, more of like the trusted advisor. If you want to be in sales, but you don't want as much like quota pressure, for example, pre-sales or sales engineering is a fun role where you're more of like the technical product expert, more of like the trusted advisor. Or don't try. Can job hopping every 2 years burn you down the line, or do most recruiters not care? I would say they don't really care. I've switched roles on average every 2 years, and it's all been through recruiters reaching out to me. I get recruiters reaching out to me like the week after I start a new position. They really don't care. Salesforce or ServiceNow for commercial rep? I would say they're pretty even. You'd have to see which one pays you more. We've got to consider all aspects of the offer. What's the level of the position? Is one giving you a bigger sign-on bonus versus the other? You recommend using a script for SDR? Yeah, I recommend writing out scripts, writing out templates, but don't make them so generic. You kind of want to have different scripts and different templates for different types of individuals that you're talking to, different types of companies. But something that you can have like a repeatable process is gonna be important. Thoughts on enterprise versus partner, GSI, manager? Both seem to pay similar amounts. Yeah, so partner sales, I work very closely with the partner sales managers and partners. I haven't been on that side. It is a different type of sales motion. It's one step removed from selling to customers. It kind of depends on what you're interested in. Um, have I heard of SV Academy? Yep, SV Academy is another one of those boot camps that they have. Pretty solid. What should you study in college? So if you're still trying to pick like a degree or anything, I always recommend computer science. You hire from someone from this live. He's starting on Saturday or Monday. That's awesome. Congrats. Yeah, I'm all for connecting people with positions. So let's see. Ooh, lots of questions here. Um, is Zoom Info good? Yeah, Zoom Info's good. Turned down an SDR role at Samsara, who's going IPO next week for Keep Truckin' for a quicker AE promo. Thoughts? I don't know Keep Truckin', but I remember you were telling me about Samsara. Um, do startups offer sign-on bonuses? Sometimes. Usually startups have a lot of flexibility in the offers that they can extend. So it never hurts to ask for a sign-on bonus. Should you say your money-driven interview? Yeah, I mean, salespeople, they do want to see salespeople that are money-driven because they want you to ultimately bring in revenue for the company. So asking questions about quota, asking questions about accelerators, how commission is calculated, if there's any other bonuses, that's gonna be a good sign. Thoughts on Stripe? Stripe is a hot startup right now, so good place to be. Anyone here have experience with as an AE? Is it soon becoming an AE at Salesforce? I'm sure there are. We are hiring for a BDR. We hired from someone from this live. Yeah. Why make this page? What's the benefit for you? I mean, the benefit for me is just kind of building out my personal brand. Um, so I'm big on social selling. I think we're it's becoming more and more important just in terms of differentiating yourself among the everyone else within the job market. It helps to kind of build out that brand, and I also just like coaching and mentoring personally. Is it okay to start at inside sales and skip the BDR step, even if you have zero experience in outbound? Yeah, I mean, it depends. So inside sales at some companies will be a combination of inside sales and BDR. Do you think your prior SE experience made you a better AE? I think so. I mean, it gave me some good perspective in terms of like what it's like to be an SE, just so it kind of improves my relationship with SEs. And then also, it doesn't hurt to be as technical as possible as a rep too. Is a sales engineer the same as a sales rep? Can SEs get paid as much as the rep view shows? So they work hand in hand with the sales reps. They're supposed to be more focused on the demos, the proof of concept, the technical questions, the technical stakeholders. Ultimately, they're not the ones that are closing the deals. That's the reps. So base will be similar for sales engineers, sometimes higher, but instead of being on a 50-50 split, usually you're on like a 70-30 or 80-20 split. So meaning if you have, let's say, 180K base, your bonus might be 80,000 or 100,000 if you're on target. Every time you feel low in motivation at work, you watch your videos, my videos. It reminds me of I Am Sales. That's awesome. Yeah, I think especially early on in your career, it can be a little demotivating, I guess, just in terms of how quickly or how slowly maybe your career is progressing, or just kind of like dealing with all like the like the BS and everything like that. So one thing that's helped me stay motivated is really just kind of like thinking about my long-term goals and breaking it down into shorter steps, just to make things a bit more attainable. 1 year account manager wanting to switch to SE, should you apply? Sure, yeah, 1 year mark. Usually for like internal transfers or even like externally, getting to that 1 year mark is a good idea. What do you think about better mortgages layoffs 3 weeks before the holidays? Yeah, I mean, layoffs suck. I was laid off last April, just in the beginning of the pandemic. There's never like a good time for layoffs. I was glad to see that they did get, I think it was 1 month of severance, which I thought was kind of low. I think especially around the holidays, it would have been nice for them to do like 3 months. That's what I got. I got 3 months of severance pay and then 6 months of health insurance benefits, which was great because it gave me time. I found a job much quicker than that. I think they could have definitely done better on that. The messaging is always tough on those. It's definitely a situation where some companies, they won't even have the CEO talk. They'll just send you an email and you'll get a message from HR saying that you've been laid off. So, it's a tough situation. And then, yeah, before the holidays, I mean, that's definitely rough because then it does kind of put a damper on the holidays. And now they have to start searching for jobs and everything. So I've been there. I empathize with them. What are some of the roles in post sales? So you've got customer success managers, technical account managers, solutions architects will sometimes be involved in post sales. You've got partner managers. Those are kind of like the main ones there. And you've got like enterprise support, depending on the company. You'll have that available there too. and then professional services will be involved. Sorry for not knowing. Where do you work now? Right now I work at Amazon Web Services. Graduated in 2014 or 2013, and I started working in 2014. So I got to Amazon with about 6 years of post-grad experience. Thoughts on sales internships? Definitely do sales internships. Let's see. AWS is down. Yeah, AWS had an outage yesterday. Yeah. What's the day-to-day of an SDR look like? Day-to-day, usually as an SDR, you're going to be working 20 to 30 leads per day. It's pretty typical. Working a lead can mean a variety of different things. It could be an email. It could be a phone call, leaving a voicemail. It could be a LinkedIn message. Usually for leads, you're going to be working on a mix of both inbound and outbound leads. Outbound leads would be companies that you're kind of like that's what you would call cold calling. So that's the ones that you're reaching out to. Inbound leads would be customers that put in a request to talk to a sales rep. So usually for those, you're going to do like 8 to 12 touches, meaning you're going to do 8 to 12 contacts or attempts to contact before you mark it as an unqualified lead. And then, so you'll be doing that. That'll be the majority of your day. You have cadences for those. So, your first touch might be like an email, and then 2 days later you do a phone call. 2 days later you do a LinkedIn message. There's different cadences that you can do. Then you'll have, internal meetings. You'll have training. You'll have shadowing sessions with experienced reps. Tips on staying motivated as a junior salesperson. I think what really helps is set a goal for when you want to get promoted. And then, so let's say if you're an SDR and you really want to get promoted within 18 months. So make that goal known to your sales manager and try to have at least bi-monthly meetings with your manager focused on your career growth. So ask them specifically, what do you need to do and demonstrate to show that you're ready to get promoted? Get a clear list of achievements that you need to hit, and then track your progress against those on like a monthly basis. And then have those like monthly or bi-monthly check-in meetings. And I think that helps a lot for motivation. Where I see people burn out is they wait until like the 1.5, 2 year mark before they start thinking about promotion. And then by then they're already starting to feel burned out because they're not sure when they're going to get promoted. And then usually they'll find out like, oh, they're still missing, X, Y, Z. And it's going to take them 3, 4, 5 months to show that. So had an interview for AWS Solutions Architect intern this week, bombed it, but you tried. That's okay. I've bombed interviews too. It's a learning experience. Now you know what to expect next time. Fortunately, they're not going to blacklist you for the most part, just for bombing an interview. Especially like Google, for example. I think they said like most people get in on like their second or third application in or whatever interview. So how do you get better at cold calls? A lot of practice, a lot of repetition. You can record yourself pitching, pitch to friends, colleagues. And then you can look at like Toastmasters. So Toastmasters are public speaking groups. They have charters within most major cities. You can take a look at that. Try out improv, for example. I've heard people have good results from that. How was reInvent? reInvent was pretty good. There's more people than I expected there. Lots of happy hours, lots of events. I was mostly there for customer meetings. I didn't go to any of the sessions or anything, but I did hang out by the expo. So looked very active. Do SEs have better job security than sales reps? Usually, yeah. So if you're at an aggressive startup, they'll fire sales reps that are not performing after, I've seen as fast as like 4 months. But sales reps will have more turnover than sales engineers, mostly because sales engineers are harder to find. And also they're not directly responsible for quota too. So you definitely have better job security as a sales engineer. But if you're doing your job as a sales rep, I would say the job security is about the same. Best path to tech sales, if you're currently in college, degree, I would say computer science, and then definitely do sales internships. What advice would you give to someone that has lots of sales experience but not software sales? Try to network on LinkedIn. Find colleagues that or found people at the target companies that you want to work at that maybe went to the same college as you, maybe came from the same industry, know someone in your network. So getting referrals will help you a ton, especially if you don't have that software sales background. Any of the ones in the background are very good, but very competitive. Yeah, I would say most of the top companies are going to be a bit competitive. Good companies to apply as a new grad. As a new grad, you want to look at medium to large companies because for your first role, you want to get a lot of training and support. Usually at small startups, you're not going to get that. It's going to be usually a pretty small sales team. People are going to be overworked at startups, so you're not going to get that coaching and mentoring that you need to grow and build those foundational sales skills. You don't both inbound and outbound as SDR. What AE role do you think is the next step? I would say like SMB AE would be the next step. What should you aim for if you're coming from a banking background? I would say sales development representative or business development representative. The question is worth getting into. AE role. Is it worth to get an AE role as quick as possible or company? I would say company. Usually it's easier to get in at a lower level position at a company and then get promoted up. For example, Google Cloud, Google Cloud is very competitive at all levels, but it's much harder to get in as like a senior account executive versus a sales development representative and then getting promoted up into that role. You should make Limitless Part 2. Sure. What kind of education do you need? You don't really need a specific education. I know people in tech sales that do very well without college degrees at all. Technical background can help, but it's definitely not required. For people that have no college degrees, they actually do pretty well through programs like Pre-Sales Academy or Pre-Hired. Both of those are in my bio. Do you think someone with a buyer experience can leverage that for sales with a supply chain degree? Yeah, definitely. Especially if you're, for example, targeting companies within like the supply chain space. That area is getting a ton of attention. So that experience as a buyer can especially help if those are the types of people you're going to be selling to. So whenever people tell me they want to pivot their career into two very different sets of skills, but there is a good amount of overlap. Obviously, with outbounding, your messaging is going to be a bit more important. With inbound, it's more about meeting management, getting clear action items, next steps. With inbound, it's all about getting that next meeting set. What's BDR? BDR is the entry-level role, business development representative. Also, some companies will call it a sales development representative. How do you get into tech sales? I have a playlist on TikTok. There's a couple ways to get in. One, you want to build like a sales-focused resume. You're going to be applying for sales development representative positions, business development representative positions. I have a video on TikTok on how to do that. And then you can also look at tech sales boot camps like Pre-Hired, Pre-Sales Academy. Those are all in my bio. You can also join my Discord community, which is also free. Have I heard of anyone transitioning from law attorney to tech sales? I think there were like 2 attorneys that had messaged me a few months back that did make the move into tech sales. So there are a good amount of like tech startups that are focusing on transforming the legal space. So that would be definitely a good set of companies to target. So you can look at legal, law, startups. You can literally Google that. I think Crunchbase has like a list of what are the top ones, and you can focus on those. Is technical sales engineer and technical sales rep the same thing? It could be. It depends on the company. I think Microsoft uses technical sales reps so as AEs. So that's the thing. There isn't a lot of like consistency within titles. So you really have to look at the responsibilities. Thoughts on HighSpot? I don't know too much about them. How long without a meeting until you're fired? It depends where you're working at. If you're working at like Google or Amazon, probably like a year. But also depends on like if you're like actually logging your activity, showing the effort. That's gonna help. Thoughts on investment banking as a career option? Investment banking, very lucrative, but you're trading off a lot of time. I know people in investment banking, some of them are working upwards of 100 hours a week. So It's not for me. Oh, lots of questions here. Okay, just refreshed. How do you have time to work when you spend all day making TikToks? TikToks don't take that much time to make. I shoot and edit everything through the TikTok app on my iPhone for the most part. My best performing videos are ones that I literally knocked out in like 10 minutes, for example. The most they'll take is like 40 minutes if like there's multiple scenes, or maybe like an hour. And I do a little bit of planning, but I really don't post that often. So, and there is downtime during the day. So you need to stay in the US. You don't need to. These companies do have positions in, India, all over Europe, South America. Have you seen anyone that decided to move to a cheaper country since its job is mostly remote? I have. At bigger companies, if you move to a different country, they will adjust your pay significantly. Like at Google, for example. I knew someone who did an internal transfer from the US to Ireland, and their pay got cut by like 60 or 70%. Any tips for incoming brand new SE? Yeah, spend as much time as you can learning the product. Talk to the engineers, talk to the product folks, get any relevant certifications, build that credibility. Another big tip: don't be afraid to say you don't know on a call. You don't need to have every single answer right then and there. It's almost always better to say that you don't know or you're not sure versus guessing, because the engineers that you're talking to, most of them are fairly smart, and there are going to be some people that are just going to try to catch you. So, and as soon as you do that and you say something that's not correct, you're going to lose a lot of trust with the customer. So that's a couple tips there for a new SE. Oops, my light got messed up. Okay. You've been in nutritional sales as an independent contractor for 37 years. I think you'd like SDR. Probably. And the SDR role, you're only going to be in it for like a year and a half. So how you transfer tech from car marketing background, either tech sales or product manager. So the move to product manager is going to be a lot more difficult than for tech sales. For tech sales, you're looking for a sales development representative, business development representative. Build a sales-focused resume. Apply for these roles on LinkedIn, for example. I have a pinned post on my profile that shows you specifically what types of companies and positions to look for. If you don't have any traction after like 4 or 6 weeks, then look at a program like Pre-Sales Academy or Pre-Hired. Those are both in my bio. Any tips to become knowledgeable about Amazon advertising, especially the hardware line? Yeah, there's a lot of, internally, there's a lot of training materials, videos, recorded conference sessions. Attend those, watch YouTube. Kyle Green. Hey, Kyle. Thoughts on Salesforce, HubSpot certificates? HubSpot certificates can help. Salesforce certificates, not so much unless you're applying for Salesforce admin positions. Hey, you can start at L4 to AWS. Do you recommend leaving after you get promoted to L5 or staying? It depends where you're going. If you're going to go to a startup, they're not really going to care if you're at L4 or L5. You also need to consider what your promotion trajectory is like. Some people can get promoted from L4 to L5 in a year. Others, it could be 3 years or longer. What plays or talk tracks do you run for closing end of quarter, end of year deals? The most simple play is, doing, limited discounts. But for the most part, for larger enterprise deals, you can't really push a deal any faster than it's going to happen anyway. You could look at doing stuff like bundling. So if they're using other services that your company is selling, you could look at bundling them. Like if there's an early renewal that you can do, and then offer a greater discount if they co-term them. That could be a good end of year, end of quarter play. Can you discuss how company equity works for startups before they go public? Great question. So there's 2 options for equity for startups before they go public. They're either going to give you stocks, RSUs, restricted stock units. or they're going to give you options. So in stocks, they give you like a certain number of shares, and then those shares obviously aren't worth anything until they go public, or they raise funding, and there's an option for you to sell your shares back to the like investors. So in that case, you also get so there's some tax considerations there. I'll get into that in a little bit. Stock options, they give you the ability or the right to buy an X number of shares at a certain strike price. Usually they do options because they're tax favorable in terms of you don't pay any taxes until you actually exercise your options. So let's say, I had a friend that joined Snowflake. I think he had options for $200,000 worth of Snowflake shares, and he had the option to buy them at $10 a share. When they went public, like a year and a half later, I think the price went up to like $220 or $230 or something a share. So his options went up a ton. So that's what you need to look at. There's a lot of other like nuance and details. You need to know how many outstanding shares there are there preferred stock, and so on. So there's some trickery that they can have, but that's what it is at a high level. Do sales representatives make more than sales engineers? You see a sales rep TC cap is higher. Yeah, so usually sales reps and sales engineers at the higher levels, their base salaries are about the same, and then sales reps make like double or triple as much commission as the sales engineers. Traits of a high achieving AE. So for high achieving AE, they're going to have very high business acumen. They're also going to have very high technical knowledge, like the ability to understand customer, understand the product without having to bring in a sales engineer all the time. Other traits are going to be very accountable, so very good with taking down next steps, making sure that all of the team members that are involved in the deal are pulling their weight. Some other traits are going to be quick learner, very coachable, able to adapt to changes within sales organizations, which will happen quite a bit. Do you actually cold FaceTime prospects? No, I actually don't, but I know someone some people that have. You have a CS degree and just became an SDR. Any advice? Thank you, bro. Congrats. So I would say advice would be know exactly how your performance is being measured, set a goal for when you want to get promoted, whether that be 12 months or 18 months, and then work with your sales manager to let them know that that's what you want to do, and then track your performance against it. Thoughts on fintech? Fintech is a hot space right now. Thoughts on working for a startup versus established company? Early on in your career, I almost always recommend an established company because you want to be building those core sales skills. And usually startups don't have very extensive training, mentoring programs like they do at established companies. Also, BioE, should you go for MBA or go into sales rep? I usually recommend people don't get their MBA until they're like 5+ years into their career, just because you need to have some corporate experience that's going to be used quite a bit within your courses. And also, you'll be in a space where you can actually apply what you're learning versus if you're entry level, just graduated from your undergrad, you're going to get less value out of your MBA. Would you take a mid-market role with significant shares or rather higher OTE and smaller sales? It's a very good question, and it's going to depend on the company and where are they at in terms of. I worked closely with the advertising sales reps when I was at Google. Haven't worked with the ones at Amazon, but growing market for sure. So not a bad place to be. What's my average deal size? Average deal size right now, I'd say it's around like $1 million. Explain the Mac 1 chip update for EC2. That's a good question. Actually, I'll have to look into that. I'll ask my sales engineer. But yeah, I actually don't know. There's like so many updates. Even as like an AWS employee, it's hard to keep up with them. Tips for cold calling. Get straight to the point with customers. And also, I think the biggest tip is that it's like a numbers game, so don't get discouraged too much. Just figure out what type of volume you need to do on a daily basis and hold yourself accountable to it. You just got a customer success job. How do you transfer a tech sales bootcamp? Maybe. Thanks. So if you're in a customer success job, best way to transition is, I would say, do an internal transfer. So start networking with the sales manager, work with your manager, let them know that you want to get promoted or move into tech sales. Don't do it like right away. Maybe wait until like you're 6 or 8 months into the role, at least with like in terms of conversations with your manager. You could basically start talking with the other sales manager almost immediately, just to kind of, let them know that's what you're interested in. Are companies, hiring remote SMBAs? Most companies are still fully remote right now. You're in a tech world and you only get paid 5% of the deal, which is average 5K. You're not happy. Yeah, it's like a pretty small commission unless you have like a high base. But the commission ranges can be anywhere from 5 to 15%. But yeah, like 5 to 8K. So I'm guessing it's pretty transactional, high volume. Do you need a degree? No, you don't need a degree. Got hired last week. You told them to change a comp plan next month. No, not a red flag. What should you major in to get into tech sales? The degree doesn't matter too much, but if you can still pick your degree, I always recommend computer science just because it has the most flexibility within the market. What's a good role to aim for coming in from a background of customer service and banking? Sales development representative, business development representative for sure. Do you know which companies have great sales programs and internships? Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Oracle, Salesforce. There's a ton of them. MongoDB has a pretty good one. Pretty much any company that's, I would say, over $1 billion in market cap, that's been around for 10 plus years, is going to have a significant amount of investment into sales training and enablement. Let's see. Refreshing the question queues here. These are all great questions, everyone. Does your pay get changed if you move to a different state? Depends on the company. Some companies will adjust your pay based on where you live. Others don't. Good questions. It's refreshing right now. Is it better to network with the AEs or BDRs or both? Definitely both. The reason why you also want to network with BDRs is because they're going to be your future AE peers too. Just graduated, work in finance, hate the hours. How do you get involved? Is the pay on par? So at the entry-level roles, sales development reps, right now offers that I'm seeing, they're between 70 and 100K. And then your pay, goes up from there. So this is the enterprise level here. 300K, 250K is pretty common. That this could be reached within 5, 6, 7, 8 years of your career. So the pay is on par, I would say. So within finance, until you get to like the really high levels within investment banking, you're going to be making pretty similar numbers in software sales, especially when you adjust for the number of hours that you're working. What skills are needed for someone with entry-level experience to get into more SDR, BDR, inside sales? So you're going to need writing skills are important, presenting skills are important, problem solving, being coachable, being able to basically distill complex topics into simpler phrasing, being able to express ideas to different types of stakeholders. Those would be some of the skills that you would need. What do you know about Salesforce professional certification for SDR? I haven't really looked at that one. Can you explain the commission rates? Yeah, so the commission rates, they'll vary. Usually what they do is they give you a quota. So let's say a typical quota is like $2 million or $3 million a year. And then depending on what your OTE is, so let's say if you're 100K base, 100K on-target commission, then you're basically going to work backwards what your commission rate is, 100K out of 2 million, for example. Yeah, these are enterprise level numbers. How long have I been in SaaS? About 6 years. How to move from L to AE to L5 AE. So quite a bit of work there. You're going to go first L2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5. But you're going to want to work definitely very closely with your manager. Know exactly how your performance is being measured. You're going to want to write your own promotion docs for the most part. What are some exit ops for someone in ad sales? So you can go to ad tech, for example. Ad tech is a hot space right now. So I would say it's probably one of your best exit ops. Thoughts on working for Clary? I don't really know too much about Clary. Um, why am I always sick? TechSalesTom. My throat's dry. It's cold in the Midwest right now. So, and I've been like running outside quite a bit. Do you need a college degree? No, you don't need a college degree. How do you manage to meet your quota for enterprise sales? Sales cycles are typically 6 to 12 months. Yeah, so the way that you manage it is you gotta work early, and then also you're basically the work that you're putting in now. You're not gonna see the fruits of that work for like a year or two. So usually enterprise reps aren't changing territories that often. You'll see them typically, especially if they're going to be doing well, they'll stay in that territory for 2, 3, 4 years or longer. Because especially once you get into like year 2, year 3, you're going to start seeing like a compounding effect of all the work that you did. Surprise Salesforce is in your background. Yeah, so this list is sorted by top earners. Um, if you sort it by OTE, Salesforce is up there. Thoughts on SalesLoft? SalesLoft is solid, so good luck on that. Thoughts on Salesforce AE SMB position versus enterprise at a mid-market company? I would probably go for Salesforce, but you also need to look at what's the pay, what's the comp package, how do you get better at closing. The biggest thing for getting better at closing is making sure that you understand the entire sales process. Make sure you understand who the key stakeholders are, and also getting a good understanding from the customer early on in terms of what their buying process is actually like. Because there's going to be some differences in terms of their buying process and your sales process. So the way that you get better at closing is you understand where the differences are, and you focus on closing the gap there. And you want to start doing that early versus waiting. So usually when people struggle with closing, it's because they didn't fully understand what the customer's buying process was. They're getting held up by like legal or procurement and all these additional processes that they could have been doing in parallel with the sales motions. Hey, you're graduating in 6 months. Is the starting track at SDR? Yes. SDR is the starting track. What's an entry-level tech sales SDR BDR make in a year? 60 to 100K. Do you feel like your job is stressed at my current level? I don't feel particularly stressed. What's your opinion on MAS, information system degree? Will it allow you to become an engineer degree or rep? Yes, it will help you with both. You work in ad sales tech. What exit ops? I think I touched on that one. Pre-sales academy. Thanks for joining. You have your second round with SalesLoft on Friday SDR. Congrats, man. Good luck with the interview. If you come into AWS at L4, do you recommend staying? See, some of these I think are repeating. Sorry about that, guys. Has your role changed with COVID? Yeah, so COVID had changed quite a bit. It was fully remote up until maybe 3 or 4 months ago. There were a couple times where we were trying to do hybrid, then those plans got put on the back burner. I'm starting to do a bit more travel with customers, so it's becoming less and less remote. Companies that you should apply for tech sales in Chicago. Look at builtinchicago.com. They've got a lot of great information on like local startups. Tom, our thoughts on Confluent? Confluent's solid. Interested in senior AE roles, the jump from AE, 110K TC to senior AE. How do you get there, TC? How do you do that? So the easiest way to do it is to switch companies. Usually when you're getting promoted internally, they're not going to match the pay raise in terms of what you would get if you came in as an external hire at that higher position. Oh. Yeah, someone in your family is a tech sales exec at Microsoft. Awesome. Yeah, Microsoft's been killing it lately. Oh, good questions. Let's see. Any SDR interview tips? Yeah, I think I just did a video on that one, but know the company, know the product, know who you're actually interviewing with, so that way you can get an idea in terms of what types of questions they're going to ask you. Work closely with the recruiter. They should be able to give you some like interview prep or questions to expect. How long does it take to move from mid-market AE to enterprise AE? It could be 1 to 2 years, but it could be longer. It also depends on how much headcount there is and your performance. What was your major in college? I did biomedical engineering. Is there really a difference between solution selling and consultative selling? Yeah, they're about the same. Thoughts on being the first SDR role at a startup? Tricky. It kind of so identify like who you can be reporting it to. Um, is it like the CRO? Is it the CTO? Do they have selling experience themselves? So the one potential danger about joining as the first SDR or doing a first SDR role at a startup is that you could not get you potentially might not get the sales training and enablement that you're hoping for. What would you recommend as the quickest way to pivot from B2C, non-tech B2B sales to tech sales? Quickest way would be to get referrals at the target companies you want to work at. Also potentially, boot camps too. Reference selling then becomes huge when you're playing your target. Yeah, I've had a lot of great experience with reference selling. Once you land like a key customer, they can be instrumental because a lot of customers don't want to be the first one among their peers to adopt like a new solution. But as soon as they see someone else is doing it, or one of the competitors is doing it, they're going to want to hop on that. How much independence do you have as if you're a top seller? I have almost full independence. I haven't updated Salesforce in like 2 months, maybe almost 3 months at this point. There's trainings that I haven't done. They really don't care as long as you're performing. How does an account executive bring hundreds of thousands of dollars of value to a company? They're usually bringing in millions of dollars to the company. So a typical rep that's making $300,000 OTE, they're responsible for $2 to $3 million in revenue. And you have to remember, this is recurring revenue. Going to your first full-time position. Yeah, resume tips would be, don't make it too lengthy. Don't use we. Focus specifically on the accomplishments that you did yourself. Use numbers and metrics as much as you can to quantify impact. And then those would be the big ones there. How do you move to enterprise with a company like AWS in 6 years? So I did that by making some pretty strategic moves. I did a couple startups in between there. You also used to work at Google, but I made sure to move up in terms of scope of role and level of responsibility as I made these moves. And then, so fairly early on, I was closing multi-million-dollar deals, which already gave me an enterprise level experience at a startup. And then I was able to leverage that to get positions at bigger companies. Am I going live tomorrow too? Yep, I'm going live tomorrow. It's going to be an hour sooner. It's going to be focused on sales engineering pre-sales. Low paying job, hours are great. You're good at it. What would you suggest to get into higher pay? 3 years working in sales. What do you suggest? So if you want to get into higher pay, you need to basically sell software that is high value. Just like in most sales, the more expensive the item that you sell, the more commission that you're going to get. So that'll be the biggest thing. So go for companies that are selling big solutions to big customers. And that's going to get you into that higher pay bracket. You asked a question about which my life depends on, and the stream started lagging. Oh, sorry. Hopefully you can ask it again. I'll try to get it before we stop here. Thoughts on working for a product that isn't a commodity and is good to have? I'm not sure what that question means. But just lawn. Yeah, put your question in again. I can't remember. Oh, jobs you think would be easier for RT graduates, for an international student? Um, cloud sales has a lot of growth and potential right now. If you get some certifications, like the AWS Cloud Practitioner, it's going to be a big leg up. And they also the big cloud companies will do sponsorships if that's what you want to do. If you want to get to the States. Let me see. So these are all great questions, guys. I'm probably gonna hop off. Actually, some of these questions just popped up here. Where can you see a list? This list is from RepView. So RepView has been sponsoring my Wednesday weekly lives. They're like tech sale or Glassdoor for tech sales compensation data. What age did I get into tech sales? 24, 25. Have you heard of Veronis? I have heard of Veronis. Hey, Thomas Parker. Hey, Parker, how's it going? Thanks for the kind words. What advice do you have for SDRs best practices? Um, do a lot of uh, call shadowing. Do a lot of internal networking. Those would be probably like some of the big tips there for SDRs. Sorry you missed your answer. Do you know about Salesforce certification for SDR? Um, I've I've heard of it. I know there's a certification that's more for like Salesforce admins, not necessarily applicable for reps. I'm not sure if that's a different one. A lot of opportunities in Denver. There are, yeah. Moving from SDR to AE tips. Yeah, make that move, that desire known to both your manager and also the AE manager. Have monthly career level discussions with your manager to make sure you're on the right path. Found your TikTok about 2 months ago. Started as SDR last week. Appreciate the videos. That's awesome, Chip. Congrats. Any good way to relate day trading to sales? I would say maybe for day trading, the way that it relates to like tech sales is, a lot of it is like having like a repeatable process, consistency, having like a pipeline. Hey, Tom, just offered a role at a top company thanks to you. That's awesome, Davin. Congrats. Gonna call Databricks back after graduating this week since they wanted me to get a degree for next. Yeah, definitely. Databricks is solid. What's the lowest I ever made in tech sales? That'll probably be at like the first company. It was like 68K. I did a recent video that showed my pay progression through different companies. Is account strategist at Google the same as BDR? I think so. It's a relatively new title. Where's customer success fit into tech sales? They fit in the post-sales side. So they're managing customers that are already signed. These are great questions. I'm going to be doing live again tomorrow. So make sure you join that. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to DM me on Instagram. Again, this is for RepView. And if you want to get in without like a technical background and you're having trouble getting in, that's when looking at a program like Pre-Sales Academy or Pre-Hired, both those are in my bio. Happy to answer more questions about them. But there's like some sign-up links there. If you want to do they'll do a free informational 30-minute call or whatever, kind of learn more about you. There is a screening process and everything, but I had quite a few people go through both those programs, and within like 10 weeks, 12 weeks, they're working in tech sales and the entry-level roles, making between 70 and I think the highest one that I saw was 105K. They got offered as a sales development representative. So thanks everyone for joining. Lots of great questions. I'm going to post this on YouTube later if you want to rewatch it. But hope you have a great night, and then potentially see you tomorrow.